Have you ever been in a quarrel with someone you truly love? A partner, a family member, a close friend, and suddenly, instead of replying, you just go silent? Maybe your lips closed while your heart screamed. Maybe your mind searched for words but none came. And then afterward, you wondered, does this silence mean I am weak? Does it make me look like a liar? Or could it actually be the wisest response? In our world, silence is often misunderstood. Many think silence equals surrender, or worse, guilt. But silence, especially in moments of conflict with someone you love, carries a depth that few understand. It can protect relationships, align us with peace, and even open the door for God to guide the moment. Today, let's explore what silence in quarrels really means, why it matters, and how to practice it in a way that builds love instead of breaking it. 1. Why quarrels happen most with those we love. It's interesting, why do we argue the most with those closest to us? With strangers, we let things go. But with loved ones, we fight for recognition. Why? Because love magnifies both joy and hurt. When you love someone, their words carry weight. Their neglect feels like rejection. Their criticism cuts deep. And when emotions are strong, quarrels are inevitable. But these quarrels also show that the relationship matters. We fight not because we don't care, but because we do. And in those heated moments, silence sometimes shows up, not as weakness, but as a sacred pause. 2. Society's view. Silence means weakness. From childhood, we're told to speak up, defend yourself, never stay quiet. So in conflict, silence is often seen as losing. People assume, if you don't argue back, you have no answer. If you pause, you must be guilty. If you stay silent, you're letting the other person win. But here's the truth. Silence is often strength disguised as calm. It takes courage to speak, yes, but it takes even more strength to hold back when speaking would cause harm. Anyone can shout back in anger, but it requires true maturity to remain silent when silence preserves love. 3. Silence and the ego war. Most quarrels are not about truth, they are about ego. Ego wants to win, ego wants the last word, ego wants to be right. But love asks, do you want to win the argument or do you want to win the relationship? When you choose silence, you're not saying, I am wrong. You're saying, I refuse to let ego destroy this bond. I value love more than victory. That is not weakness, it's deep wisdom. 4. Silence as protection. Words are like arrows. Once released, they cannot be taken back. In quarrels, words often become weapons. You never cared about me. I regret being with you. You always disappoint me. Even if untrue, these words leave scars. Silence protects against such wounds. It acts like a shield, holding back anger until emotions cool. In this way, silence becomes love's bodyguard. 5. Silence versus avoidance. But let's clarify, not all silence is healthy. Avoidant silence happens when someone refuses to communicate at all. This creates emotional distance. Punishing silence, silent treatment, manipulates the other person. This destroys trust. Healthy silence is different. It is temporary, intentional, and motivated by love. It says, right now, I cannot speak without harming us. I'll return when peace guides my words. 6. Silence as alignment with God. Beyond psychology, silence has a spiritual dimension. Sometimes silence in quarrels is surrender, an acknowledgement that I don't know the right words, but God does. Instead of filling the air with defensiveness or lies, you choose silence, trusting divine timing. It's as if you whisper inside, God, take over. I don't want to break this love with careless words. Give me the right thoughts and the right moment. This silence is not emptiness, it is prayer. 7. Personal story, illustrative. Let me share an example. A couple argued late one night. The husband accused his wife of being careless about household responsibilities. She wanted to shout back, list his mistakes, point out his failures. But something inside whispered, stay silent. She didn't respond. Her husband stormed out of the room. Hours later, guilt softened him. He realized stress from work had fueled his words. He returned, apologized, and together they calmly discussed responsibilities. Her silence didn't mean she had no answer. It meant she valued peace more than ego. State. Silence doesn't mean lying. Another misconception is, if I don't defend myself, they'll think I'm lying. But silence isn't lying. Silence is simply, I don't want to speak in anger. I will speak when love is ready. Truth spoken at the wrong time is as harmful as lies. Silence ensures truth arrives gently when it will be heard. 9. The inner strength of silence. Think about it. Anyone can scream, anyone can defend blindly, but it takes spiritual strength to remain calm. It takes emotional maturity to say, "Not now." So instead of seeing silence as weakness, we must see it as discipline, the power to protect love from the fire of anger. 10. What to do in silent moments. When you choose silence during quarrels, don't just sit in frustration. Use the silence as breathing space, calm your nervous system. Prayer time, ask God for wisdom. Reflection, check if ego or love is guiding you. In this way, silence becomes active, not passive. So, is silence weakness? No, it's a sacred strength. It's the pause that protects love, the restraint that saves relationships, and the alignment that lets God speak. But silence alone isn't enough. After silence, communication must return. Next, we'll explore how to balance silence with loving words, how silence can heal relationships, and how to use it as a bridge instead of a wall. Stay with me. We discovered silence is not weakness but wisdom, a protective pause that preserves love. Now let's go deeper. How do we use silence to heal? How do we balance it with communication? And how can silence become not avoidance but the very voice of peace? 1. Silence as healing space. When emotions run high, the body floods with adrenaline and stress hormones. In this state, clear thinking is impossible. Silence becomes the healing space where emotions settle, allowing logic and love to return. Think of silence as the cooling period in the relationship oven. Without it, everything burns. With it, patience allows healing. 2. Silence allows true listening. Most arguments are two people speaking, but no one hearing. Silence changes that. When you stay quiet, you open the space to listen, not only to words, but to the unspoken feelings behind them. Sometimes your loved one doesn't want answers. They just want to be heard. Silence gives that gift. 3. Silence invites God's whisper. On a spiritual level, silence is where God speaks. In the noise of quarrels, his guidance is drowned. But when you pause, surrender, and stay silent, suddenly clarity arises. A soft thought, wait, don't hurt them. A gentle reminder, this person loves you, they're just in pain. That guidance often transforms the quarrel. 4. When to speak after silence. Silence must eventually give way to words, otherwise distance grows. The key is knowing when to break silence. When your heartbeat slows. When anger fades. When your intention shifts from proving right to seeking peace. This timing makes your words healing instead of harmful. 5. Silence and vulnerability. Silence also teaches humility. It admits, I don't have all the answers right now. That vulnerability is not shameful. It's human. It shows your loved one that you're willing to pause rather than force false words. 6. Silence in relationships. In love, silence can save bonds. Couples who argue constantly often fall apart, not because of problems, but because of unfiltered words. Silence offers the pause that protects intimacy. Parents and children, friends, siblings, every relationship benefits when silence steps in before anger explodes. 7. Silence doesn't erase truth. Important note, silence is not forever. Silence doesn't mean sweeping problems under the rug. After silence, truth must be spoken, but gently, at the right moment. If silence becomes avoidance, resentment grows. If silence becomes punishment, the relationship suffers. The beauty of silence lies in its temporary nature. 8. Real-life stories of healing silence. A father and son. They argued over career choices. The son walked away in silence instead of screaming. Days later, they calmly reconciled. A friend's betrayal. Instead of lashing out, the betrayed friend stayed silent. Weeks later, with clearer emotions, they spoke honestly and rebuilt trust. A marriage saved. A wife chose silence when her husband shouted in stress. Later, they both realized silence prevented cruel words they couldn't take back. In each story, silence didn't solve everything, but it prevented destruction. 9. Silence as surrender to divine timing. Sometimes, silence is simply waiting for God's timing. Maybe you don't have the words yet. Maybe the other person isn't ready to listen. Silence respects the season. Later, when hearts soften, the right conversation unfolds. 10. Practical steps for healthy silence. Step back. Breathe. When anger rises, pause instead of reacting. Communicate pause. Say, I need some time to calm down. I'll talk later. Pray in silence. Use the quiet to ask for wisdom. Return with love. After silence, speak truth gently. 11. Final wisdom. So is silence weakness? Absolutely not. Silence in quarrels with loved ones is one of the greatest strengths you can carry. It is the pause that prevents regret, the space that invites healing, and the surrender that allows God to lead. Silence is not lying. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is choosing love over ego, peace over victory, and wisdom over impulse. The next time you find yourself in a quarrel, remember this. You don't have to win the fight. You have to protect the love. Let silence shield you in anger. Let silence open your ears to truly listen. And let silence invite God's whisper into the storm. Because silence chosen with love is not weakness. It is the most powerful voice of peace.